Hi, my name is Leen Zevenbergen and I'm talking to you from my farm, walnut farm in the southwest of France, speaking to you about a new world called the next frontier. And the next frontier has to do with how the world around us is changing and how that leads to changing customer behavior and different ways of treating consumers, basically all of us. So I'm going to share with you my screen now to show you a presentation that I'm going to give for the coming 15 minutes. I wrote a book just recently, which is called Once Upon a Future. And this book gives a very complete way of what is happening in the world, what has happened in the world, and what is going to happen in the future, in the near future and the longer away, further away future. So on the basis of that book, I'm going to lead you through a time that is changing and that leads to the next frontier. As you know, the world is heavily changing at the moment, and companies are in a totally different time looking for different business models. So change is very fundamental. But it has been on the way for quite a long time, because what you can see is that since 2007 almost, we saw three main disruptors going through the world. One is the exponential growth of technology. The second is the changing ecology, and it's not changing for the better. And the third is the growing globalization that we see in this world. And these three disruptors are moving so fast that they're almost not that we are not able as human beings to grasp them and understand them. And what we also don't see is the influence that those disruptors have on the society as a whole. So changes that we will see in healthcare, education, food production, industry, mobility, and energy are called the mega shifts that are changing 8 areas in our society that I will come to a little bit later. On the basis of these changes, we will see a different world that we have called We 0.0, which eventually leads to a different human being. And when that leads to different human beings, we will see big changes in the world, and therefore big changes in behavior and in consumer behavior. However, the good news is that if you see this chaos, there is always a big opportunity for companies to change their business model and to become a winner for the future. What you currently see, of course, for example, is that companies like Coca-Cola, energy companies like Shell are more and more scrutinized for their behavior. Coca-Cola is producing 3,500 single-use plastic bottles every second. Therefore, one of the biggest polluters of the planet as far as plastic is concerned. Consumers don't accept it anymore. People that live all over the world are not going to accept that anymore. We see that now, signs of that during the COVID crisis, but we will see more and more signs in the future, and as we have seen in the past. The three disruptors that I mentioned before started with the exponential change of technology. Exponential means not linear, and linear is our mind. We think in a linear manner. We do not think in an exponential manner. 10 years ago, the computer power that is now in our mobile cell phone used to be taking up at least a big room full of computers. Now it is in your phone. Exponential means that every 2 years the computer power doubles and becomes more powerful and cheaper and smaller. So what you will see is that the power that is now in your computer, or in your telephone, 5 years from now, will be the size of a small piece of rice. And then 5 years later, it will be a piece of dust that has the same power. And if you think about that small, powerful thing, you can imagine that it will be all over the place, in your body even. So we as human beings are, if we want it or not, going to change in a fundamental way. DNA is going to play a big role. Biotech plays a big role. So that whole technology is going to make sure that we as human beings are going to see a magnificent and huge change. However, the danger always is that technology has no ethics. So it doesn't know if it's good or bad. Is Facebook good or bad? Is Google good or bad? We don't know. Do we use the technology that you just mentioned in these small computers that are inside of our body? Are we going to hack that in a positive or a negative way? Are we going to follow our citizens all over the world in a bad way? The good thing is that we also see signs like AI, artificial intelligence for good, which means that we are searching for ways to use technology in a useful way, that the planet will gain something from it. And that value for the planet, that value for the human beings is central in the thinking and is central in the behavior change that we'll see in the near future. When we look at the ecology, that is not improving at all. The ecological situation is not only the CO2 in the sky and the warming of the planet. It is way, way, way more. We see food shortages all over the world. We see health problems, education. People cannot go to education anymore. We see a very, very wrong division of wealth all over the world. We see the oceans that are being polluted heavily, the sky that is being polluted. So in all cases, we are running to the verge of what the planet, what nature can give us. And that will have a huge influence on the whole world, on the circular way of thinking, and also on procurement. Where do we get our stuff from? Do we eat strawberries in a period of time that there are no strawberries here? Do we fly them in from all over the world? Or is it going to be local for local? An important picture that you see here has to do with what we call the Earth Overshoot Day. And the Earth Overshoot Day is the moment that we on the planet consume more than the planet can reproduce in a year. And what you see on this picture is that countries like, for example, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom in May are at that point. So that means that the UK on the 17th of May is consuming as much as the planet can produce in a year. So they're over-consuming for the rest of that year. And you can even measure that to yourself. How are you as an individual doing that? How are you as a company doing that? And because of all of this, you see a whole new kind of companies coming up. And we call them the B Corps. And they say business as a force for good. There are many B Corps in Europe, already 800. The biggest food company, one of the biggest food companies in the world, Danone, is working on becoming a B Corp, is a B Corp in many countries already. So you see more and more companies that are making a fundamental change in their existence. The sky that you see in this beautiful picture and the sea, who do they belong to, you think? Well, the answer is they belong to nobody. They used to be the commons, they used to belong to everybody, but they don't belong, and because they don't belong to anybody, we see that those commons are very poorly used. The sea is polluted, the sky is polluted, because if no one is to blame, everyone is to blame. And that is one of the big problems that we see. Those three disruptors that I mentioned before, exponential technology, the worsening of the ecological system and the globalization lead to mega shifts. And the mega shifts we have divided in 8 areas. One is nature. A change that is taking place says that nature doesn't belong to us. We are part of nature. Long time, we as human beings have thought we can just pick forever everything that we have that the planet has to offer. We use everything, it's for free, you know. But it isn't. It isn't. We are part of nature. The fact that we use the word nature as a separate word means that we don't think we belong to them. We are part of nature. Second is consumption is changing. There is a massive overconsumption in many parts of the world. And people are beginning to think of that. Shouldn't I buy less? Shouldn't I eat a little bit less? Shouldn't I eat healthier? So that consumption pattern of the people is going through a major shift at the moment. Like also is money and values. Values and money. What is money used for? Is it used for the real economy? Who owns the money? Is it not in the hands of a very few people? Why is it so that Facebook, using property, assets of human beings, 2.2 billion human beings, is becoming rich, and all those human beings are not? Why is that? Why is it so that we see this wrong division of wealth? Thanking the soil means that we understand that the ownership of the land should not be in the hands. It should be of all. We see changes in that. We're thinking differently about work. A FTE means a full-time equivalent. We are full-time equivalents. We are in a spreadsheet. We talk about human resource management instead of human being management. We see humans as a resource for the economy and not economy as a resource for human beings. So all those changes are taking place at a very rapid rate. And what is the society gaining by technology? We are now asking ourselves that. We didn't in the past. So, and we will see changes because of that. We already see changes because of that. So we see a different kind of leadership, leaders that care for the future, that is necessary, that we will have that. And those mega shifts have a fundamental impact on those 8 areas that society consists of. If you look at the moment, because the COVID crisis is actually speeding up that whole change. So we see proof that things are happening. In the fact that when you look at schooling, teaching, what we see now is that children at home are getting schooling from a whole different perspective, more individual, distant. We see also a very large appreciation now for healthcare. We didn't see that before. Those people didn't get normal salaries, they had to work hard, and people didn't see the value. Now we see who has value for our society. We see local for local food production, and not any longer the long stretches and flying food in from all over the world. We see a wish for healthy food, organic food, and that is also being speed up by the COVID crisis. So the changes that we see in energy, it's going to cheaper, cleaner energy. Of course, it's going to cleaner energy. We see a change in mobility also in the COVID crisis that is changing much more rapidly than we would ever have imagined. We are talking about a better division of wealth, local production, value for society. Those are the changes that we're seeing. And as a logical consequence of all that, very logical consequence, we see that actually only sustainable companies can survive. Why? Because that's what the consumers want. That is what the consumers want. Unilever already has seen that the products, 20% of the products that have a purpose, that means something to the planet and to the people, have a far higher profit margin. So, and why is that? because people are willing to pay more for value. People are looking for value. And you see that now. You see health and sustainability coming up, distance shopping, online courses. So you see many changes in the world. So how can you work your way out of the crisis? And I'm talking about crisis with an E, not only the COVID crisis, because the COVID crisis is going to be followed by an economical crisis, and that is going to be followed by an ecological crisis. And those are bigger and bigger. So we have to be smart, and we have to think, how can we change ourselves, and how can we work and survive as a company and as human beings in the world as we go forward. One of the tools is the SDG Action Manager that was developed by B Lab for the B Corps together with the United Nations based on the Sustainable Development Goals. Very useful tool for any company of any size to change themselves intrinsically. You can become a B Corp, and there's all kinds of other tools like the Changemaker from the United Nations, the SDG. You can do the Move the Date, as you see here. Schneider Electric did that. You can do that on an individual basis. You can do that as a company. There are many tools available online that you can use to make a change, and you should make a change. Because if it is not me, then who? And if it is not now, then when? And if it's not here, then where? With this short presentation, I hope I've given you an insight in how the world is changing and what the next frontier looks like and how that is influencing the consumers, the people of this planet, and how that behavior change will influence your business. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to questions and discussions.